around the corner, but that's just one basketball league that we need to talk about, Cam, because the NBA has been phenomenal lately, or at least a couple teams have, and some of the games watching these have been great.
Yes.
Now, one of the teams that's been just mediocre, as they typically are, but put up a very entertaining performance last night, are Chicago Bulls.
What?
Right?
The Bulls?
Entertaining?
Down 4?
Winning?
What? Final seconds? Side out of bounds? Lonzo to Kobe White? Thank you, Emmanuel, quickly, for just having a brain freeze for some reason.
Deciding not to play defense
you were
there.
guarding the out-of-bounds pass and saw that Grady Dick was just a split second behind Kobe White.
Yeah.
And decided to just run over and not provide any space for Kobe White. Fouled him. Kobe, very, 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 very tough and focused on knocking down that three while getting fouled, and we had extra basketball in Chicago. I think the impressive thing about this team that we saw last night was hearing Billy Donovan the past few games, along with Josh Giddey, talk about trying to get the stops late in ball games to get wins. Their past few games were by losses by a combined 11 points. So when it comes down to it, Kate, you know this, you're a hooper, I'm a hooper as well. If you're not getting the late game stops, even if you're just a casual fan or just a lover of the game of basketball, if you're not getting the late game stops, you're not going to win those ball games.
No.
It just happens like that. But they were able to do that. In fact, held the Raptors to only 5 points in overtime.
Yeah, they took over in overtime.
Bulls put up 15 like that. That was great for this team. So it was a fun night inside the United Center.
Yeah, because you were there. You were doing the pre and post.
Pre and post for Bulls Countdown Live on the Chicago Sports Network. So that was fun, enjoying that. And it was Friday night.
Friday night at the United
Good weather
Center doesn't
in
get
Chicago
much better
yesterday.
than that.
It was beautiful.
Especially when there's a win.
Yeah, so a lot of people were enjoying themselves, I should say that, as the game was done, and they were walking through the East Atrium and seeing us in studio doing the show.
Did you get people like trying to be obnoxious behind you? Because with the pre and post on CHSN, if anyone has not watched it, well, you should, but it's in the atrium of the United Center where fans can walk by and basically be a part of it.
Yeah, definitely. So with our pregame show, for sure you can be a part of it because we have what we call the glass doors open.
Yeah.
Kind of like an accordion, just kind of open them up and have fans along the railing with signs, kids, all of that stuff is really, really cool with the interactions with the fans. And, you get the occasional, hey, can I get on TV? Like, yeah, stand right there. We'll be on shortly. So you can see all of our crew who was great with CHSN, all of our camera crew and floor directors. So opportunity there. And then also postgame. The thing about the postgame is that the glass doors are closed.
That's probably
so you
smart.
don't have an opportunity to get on camera. And definitely smart because, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
people were feeling really great. It's
People
Friday
have just
night,
a little
great
bit more
weather, Bulls get
confidence
overtime
after,
win.
4 quarters of watching the Bulls and maybe some beverages than they
definitely.
do pregame.
So you get the occasional bang on the glass.
Oh,
you get that kind of feel
Come
with
on.
that. And it's just like, all right, let's just be an adult.
Pump the brakes,
Let's
kids.
not knock on the glass as you stand there with your entire family and not set a bad example for your kids. But the fans are always great, and it's fun to see them in that element of just having a great time after a Bulls win.
Yeah, and something that they haven't, the Bulls have not won too many games this season, so always great when the Bulls get a win.
It's been rough.
It has.
They are basically in the play-in, right? Because the Nets and the Sixers are both trying to lose.
Yeah, especially with the news of the Sixers with Joel Embiid, and they just shut him down for the rest of the season, which I felt should have happened months ago.
Yeah.
I don't know why they dragged that on, but yeah, he's medically shut down with that left knee and trying to get himself back. So I believe the Bulls are up 2.5 games on the Brooklyn Nets for that 10th spot in the play-in. So I know Bulls fans.
A familiar spot.
Back in the play-in for the 3rd consecutive year. So get your playoff towels ready. It's looking like maybe the Atlanta Hawks again. That's who they faced
those two
last
really
year.
like to meet each other in the
just basically swapping
spots play-ins, yes.
from last year because the Bulls beat the Hawks inside the United Center. So it'll be interesting to see how these final 22 games finish up, just in the NBA in general.
Right.
Because now we know, Kate, post All-Star,
it's time.
It's real.
Yeah, it's
real.
go time.
It's
no
real.
one's messing around. Everyone, for the most part, is playing. And speaking of Joel Embiid and the 76ers, we are going to talk to Mark Jackson at 4:20 Central, former NBA player, covers the Sixers for NBC Philly. So we'll get his thoughts on kind of what that team is looking like going forward. But one of the games last night, Cam, where teams are for real now.
Yeah.
And this team looked for real. If there was any question, which there has been, and we've talked about it, of like not totally buying in and trusting this team quite yet as a title contender, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they were in Boston last night. They were down 25-3 to start the game. They came back and won 123-116. I know there was no Kristaps Porzingis, there was no Drew Holiday, but that doesn't matter. That was still an impressive gutty win, and they played really well.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell, 41 points, Darius Garland, 20. Evan Mobley, who I love that he's taken a huge step in his career, because that was one of the main goals for Kenny Atkinson when he took over the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you go back to his introductory press conference, he said one of his main goals is to unlock Evan Mobley, give him more touches offensively, allow him in his game to really shine, because he has a skill set. He's very versatile at his size and what he's able to do. But 17 and 12 for Mobley in this situation, and just took advantage of the absences of Kristaps Porzingis and also Drew Holiday. Like, Drew Holiday is one of those guys, even though he's a guard, can really make up size just because of how he's able to maneuver around defend or ball handlers and just find his way on the defensive end. But I'm still not sold on Cleveland.
Yeah,
I know it was a big
There's
win last
still
night.
just that feeling.
When will you be sold on Cleveland?
When they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and they win an Eastern Conference Finals. That's the only way. Because
what do they have to do, Cam?
They have to do it in the playoffs. They have to prove it. Because remember last year, this same matchup, win 5 games in the semis.
Well, even before that, didn't they go 7 games with Orlando?
Yeah.
You can't be going 7 games with Orlando if
exactly.
you want to be a title contender. Like, you're just going to wear yourself out knowing that you have the Celtics coming up ahead of you to still get through.
And if the Orlando Magic could shoot the basketball, we could be talking about the Orlando Magic against the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference semis, right? So that was the issue with Orlando in that Game 7, just really all season last year and definitely through the playoffs, was they didn't have anyone from 3 that could knock down shots. They kind of solved that by bringing in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They're still going through their struggles here and there from the perimeter, and just with the injuries that they have as well. Jalen Suggs out indefinitely for them. So
stinks.
That's a big blow for them. But Cleveland has to win, Randy. That's the only way. That is the only way that they not only have to prove it to me, but to themselves that they belong. Like, that's what you have to do. It's the same. It's a similar situation to what we saw with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and the Boston Celtics. Made it to the Eastern Conference Finals multiple times, had an NBA Finals appearance against the Golden State Warriors in 2022. They don't finish it off, right? They have to prove to themselves that when the lights are on, that they can step up and play. Maybe it's an opportunity this year, but good for them, maybe mentally as well. They split the season series with the Boston Celtics, 2 games apiece, and they finish it off with that. But they got to do it when the lights come on in the playoffs. That's the scary thing about it. Playoff lights hit different, guys, and we know this.
That is a good point, though, and I doubt any of these NBA players are lacking confidence, right? Like, they are not, or at least not personal confidence. But to beat the Celtics twice this season, if you see them in the playoffs, like, you know you can hang with them, you know you can beat them. And maybe there's an asterisk a little bit without Porzingis and Drew Holiday. That's those are 2 very important pieces to the Celtics. Right. Change the dynamic of kind of how that offense flows a little bit, but
it's almost like 25 points,
right?
Taken away,
yeah,
almost 30.
Yeah. And you can't win a series with Tatum and Brown being your only 2 scorers, which it pretty much was last night. I know Derek White had 16, but other than that, no one else had more than 6 points. Like, you only had 6 people score last night.
Yeah, Peyton Pritchard, just 25 minutes, only 6 points for himself.
Yeah.
That's one of the best 6 men and players off the bench in the NBA.
I mean, he's the leader for 6 man of the year.
Yeah.
So, that'll be a fun series if it does happen, and I think a lot of people are thinking it's likely going to, based on the depth of the Eastern Conference. Obviously, the Bucks are still a team that can make some runs, rival. Cam, how are you feeling about the Knicks right now? Because I know you are tight with Jalen Brunson. I mean, both personally and you just love watching him. We all do. But the Knicks have struggled so badly against top teams. They're 0-7 against the Cavs, Celtics, and Thunder. And they're not just 0-7. They are they're 0-7 against the spread, too. They've been underdogs in all but one of those games. So, like, they're not even really being competitive in those games.
Yeah, and that's weird to say that about a Tom Thibodeau coach team.
When you have Cat, you have Brunson, you have Hart, you have
and Anunoby's back.
And Mikal Bridges that you traded for. Like, you brought this team together thinking that this was enough to compete, and it hasn't been.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the recent losses for New York against Cleveland, against Boston, where you just get dog walked.
Yeah.
That was no excuse at all.
It's not even competitive.
Yeah, I don't care if you were on the road or not. Like, that can't happen. If you have plans to get to the NBA Finals or win an NBA championship, you have to show up against the best teams. There's no way around it. There's no other excuse, right? So you have to be able to do that multiple times within the regular season just to get you ready for the playoffs. We just talked about this with Cleveland, right? I mean, maybe for them, that win against Boston and splitting the season series for them moving forward helps them mentally when the playoffs hit. It's the same thing for the New York Knicks. You can miss me with the whole, okay, we'll see them in the playoffs, we'll be fine once we get them inside the Garden. You got to be honest about this thing. I know the Garden is magical. It's magical. I spent a few years freelancing for MSG Networks, covering the Knicks, covering a lot of New York area teams, professional, college, and also high school. But it's a different thing for an opponent to walk into the Garden because they feel that they have to put on the show as well. So it raises their level of play too. But I would say for this Knicks team, it's great that they've rebounded. Obviously, you got the win against Philadelphia, tighter than what they wanted. But
I mean,
win is a win.
Last night, right, that was an emotional win for them.
Yeah, Cardi had Knicks, too.
Yeah, I mean, that was a crazy game. Back and forth, and Jalen made 2 great plays down the stretch in the last 24 seconds. So, I mean, you brought up a good point. The big thing about the Knicks is the one thing about the Bulls with Thibodeau is defense, right? They always had defense. I feel like they don't have guys that maybe they have a couple guys. Bridges, is good defensively, but and
like Bridges and Anunoby,
right?
Like that's kind of like their core. Like those guys.
Like, would you ever place a ticket on them, either of you guys, to win the East?
Ooh,
I wouldn't, based on what I've seen from them this season against those top teams. I mean, it's not only the top teams; it's teams above 500.
Right.
They are 6 and I'll check on those numbers.
Okay.
They're 26-6 against teams below 500. They have a losing record against teams above 500. So it's not even just like the top teams in the league. It's just any winning team the Knicks struggle against. They're 20th in defensive rating on the season. You talk about a Thibodeau defense. Like, this is not your typical Thibodeau defense. And Mikal Bridges was a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year a couple of years ago when he was with Phoenix. Like, I don't know. They got a lot to figure out and not a whole lot of time to do it.
Yeah, I know. And maybe 21, 22 games left for the Knicks, right, as we get closer to the end of the regular season. But plus 700 for them. If you want to put some money down to win the East, I say keep your money.
I say keep your money, too.
I say do that. I would put more money down on my dark horse to win the NBA Finals.
The Bucks.
There you go, Kate. Keep it in the Midwest.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, look, the Milwaukee Bucks are serious. You can get them at 16-1 to win the Eastern Conference. Like I don't care if Bobby Portis is out because of the whole,
he'll be back
anti-drug policy thing and just the mild, headache pain that he didn't read on the label, and
he should have argued that he's like dyslexic, and because they were so close, the 2 names of the drugs. He should have just been like, I have dyslexia. I saw the letters wrong in the way in the
I
woke
order.
Up
I woke up from a nap. I'm sleepy. Like my head is throbbing.
A little
I need
foggy,
some kind of painkiller. You're right. Yeah.
Couldn't see correctly. Vision blurred. That's a symptom of a headache, right?
I mean, like Bobby Portis does not need any enhancement. To help himself just play basketball. It's not going to happen. Like if he starts jumping like Ja Morant,
then we know something is up.
Hey, Bobby, after the game, come see us in the bathroom. We gotta have you take some tests.
That always makes me laugh. Is anytime a player has like an insane game, stat sheet wise, or makes a crazy play, it's like, you have been selected for a random drug test. Just take the word random out of that. You have been selected for a drug test. It's not random.
That happened to a couple of teammates of mine my senior year when we made it to the Sweet 16 against Kansas.
Right after the game.
They were drug tested after the game. Just like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Missouri Valley, mid-major. You guys just knocked off Virginia Tech? No.
Southern Illinois, small town school. You guys can't be here.
Come see us. Come see us. You too, come see us.
Do we need to be drug testing the Lakers? Because their defense, we were joking, Kim, before the show, they traded for Luka Doncic, who, according to the Mavs, is too chubby and doesn't play defense, and yet the Lakers have the best defensive rating since acquiring him.
Yeah, like it's weird. And honestly, looking back at the numbers now, just by a point, the Portland Trail Blazers have a better defensive
Which
rating
is
than the
also
Lakers
crazy
since the
because it's
All-Star
the
break.
Portland
it's like,
Trailblazers.
Portland, what's going on? Huh? Shout out to Chauncey Billups, because I know that is a task out there in Portland trying to get those guys together. But, it's the project that is on his desk and on his hands. But, yeah, the Lakers, you trade for one of the best, or not for, but you trade away one of the best defenders in the league and get back a guy that is optional. It's optional sometimes. Effort is optional on that end of the floor.
Yeah.
And you improve? I don't know. So, yeah.
Call up the doctors.
Not just one or two guys, the entire team.
Drug test.
JJ Redick, YouTube.
Yeah,
JJ YouTube.
JJ
Bring in
as
your
well.
entire staff.